The story follows Rupazev, a worried assassin in his day, and a young man called Zalika. Rupazev has been compelled to use a wheelchair for the past 3 years due to his disabilities. Meanwhile, Zalika, who was born with a handicap, has had to use a wheelchair his entire life. Zalika now shares a dorm room with his closest buddy, Barba. In his free time, Zalika likes drawing comics, and his work is remarkable. The lads are housed in a separate facility for the disabled. Residents are cared for and watched here, but they have far more room than one might expect. The accommodations in the facility are nothing like those in a hospital. Zalika and Barba are inseparable, they create cartoons together and assist one another. They tackle challenges together and have joy. Barba appears in the room one day with a fire extinguisher and informs him that he took it. Zalika enjoys it a lot, and the group goes outside to test it out. When Rupazev, from the same facility, appears in the alley, the merriment is cut short. He requests a light, and Barba graciously hands him his lighter, but informs him that smoking is not permitted here. The man quickly slaps Zalika as he turns to exit. Rupazev admits that he once worked as a firefighter as well. He tells them that he has several times pulled young children's corpses from burning structures and tells them to return the fire extinguisher to its original location. The guy then turns and departs, but Zalika is insulted by his conduct. He approaches the assailant and attempts to strike him. But Rupazev proves to be much more powerful, and shortly Zalika is on the ground. The protagonist moves away to clear his urinal into the sewage grate after he is calmed down. Rupazev swiftly recognizes that he has overstepped his bounds. The guy apologizes before inviting the two young men to a bar where Zalika and Barba appear to be having a great time. The lot of drinks that their new friends order surprises the guys. When asked if he is a traitor, Rupazev chuckles and marvels how such an idea could have occurred to him. However, he acknowledges that he would benefit from some assistance, such as a chauffeur, in order to complete his job. Barba enthusiastically approves and adds that he also drives. Soon after, Zola collapses onto the couch, prompting Rupazev to inquire as to what is wrong. Barba responds that his buddy has a bad back, but the protagonist is unmoved, saying that he should stop feeling sorry for himself because his back aches all the time. Actually, Rupazev is unaware of the severity of Zalika's medical issues. In addition to promising them worldly delights comparable to those they enjoyed at the gathering today, Rupazev suggests to them that they pursue careers as assassins. A few days later, Zalika is undergoing an operation at the hospital. Finally, though, he declines because his father, who had abandoned him since birth after discovering that he had a birth defect, had paid for the surgery. The scene changes to Rupazev, who gets a job from his boss. Rupazev watches for his prey in an empty parking lot. A car comes and pauses near him. Several guys exit the car and approach him. One of them threatens Rupazev with a knife and plunges it into his thigh, but he experiences no pain. Rupazev proclaims that he hasn't felt anything in his legs in years due to his disability, prompting derisive laughs from his targets. Rupazev is then kicked by one of them. He takes a plastic sack out of his pocket as he coughs. It comes out that the plastic contains a gun, which Rupazev uses to fire his targets one by one until they are all killed. After that, an ambulance shows up on the scene. Rupazev's thigh wound is attended to by a female specialist called Zita, and supposedly the two become friends. He wishes to take her to the cinema later because he is in love with her. She tells him that she is betrothed and declines his offer. He even tries to commit suicide by jumping off the stairs of the pedestrian overpass because he is so broken-hearted. However, destiny forbids him from doing so. Rupazev bounces back and carries on with his former existence. He is informed that he must keep his job a secret from others and not engage with them when he gets his paycheck from his boss. He receives a lot of assistance from Zalika and Barba during this period. A few days later, while receiving treatment for his broken limb in the infirmary, Rupazev runs into Zalika. He is instructed by Rupazev to stop helping him and to stop their encounters. However, Zalika declines, stating that they will still collaborate. Then, despite his mother's persistent attempts to convince him otherwise, Zalika declines the money his father wishes to offer him. Rupazev finishes his leg exercise and waits for Zita in front of the infirmary. After seeing Zita with her partner, he loses motivation to send Zita a bouquet of flowers. Then, Rupazev is employed to kill a government figure. He intends to kill the official while the man is eating lunch by the side of the road. While Zalika and Barba take care of the situation on the opposing sides to help him relocate, he waits on the other side of the street. With the aid of a colony of birds and a large group of onlookers, Rupazov completes his task without drawing attention to himself. The officer passes out as he crosses the street, and blood is all over his body. While his security is searching for the offender, nobody would suspect three wheelchair-bound guys who are severely disabled. The three get away from the area swiftly. Later, on a transport, Rupazov runs into Zita. Rupazov receives an offer to her wedding from the lady. However, Rupazov is unaware that his boss is monitoring his every move. His boss is annoyed at him for violating his regulations and beats him until he collapses. Following their encounter, the employer gives him one opportunity to put things right. This time, Rupazov is tasked with assassinating Zalika and Barba. The next day, Rupazov and two companions go fishing in a lake. Despite the fact that they had to traverse the prairies to get there, the three get to the lake and begin fishing. Barba is overjoyed when the bait is consumed and begs for assistance in pulling the line. Instead of assisting, Rupazov forces him into the sea. Rupazov then tosses Zalika into the river, meaning to leave them there. But he can't stand the idea of his friends drowning. He eventually jumps into the ocean to save them. He claims it was all a prank after they all returned to the wharf. He failed to accomplish his task for the first time. Rupazov hosts a gathering for his pals after returning from the lake. He tells them about Zita and how much he loves her, and his pals want to help him win her over. The next day, three of Rupazov's companions transport him and lean him against a vehicle, indicating that he can stand and no longer requires the wheelchair. He is waiting for Zita to return from the infirmary. However, after hours of watching, it is discovered that Zita is not at work. A few days later, he gets instructions from his employer hires him to assassinate a drug dealer, and the boss offers him double money. He accepts the assignment on the stipulation that his present work be his last and that he not be given any more missions. Unexpectedly, the boss approves the idea. He moves toward the target's home with his two friends. Then, while he works, he makes Zalika and Barba wait in the vehicle. The officers examine Rupazov before allowing him inside the home, but they turn up nothing suspicious like a gun or sharp objects. Assuming that everything is in order, the guards escort him to the house to meet their employer. When Rupazov eventually confronts the drug supplier, he starts his acts. He removes a gun from the padding pillows. He gets out of the wheelchair and begins firing at the soldiers inside the house, but he misses his target. Instead of running away, the victim takes the weapon and starts shooting at Rupazov. Due to his job as a hitman, the protagonist clearly has more experience with firearms, despite the fact that his physical condition has changed. He kills everyone and completes his mission despite having blood on his outfits and all over his body before running away. The police siren can be heard in the background as he approaches the entrance. He makes a failed effort to unlock the gate. In the vehicle, Zalika and Barba appear frightened. Zalika takes charge to halt the police vehicle, while Barba assists Rupazov in leaving the home, and they eventually escape together. Rupazov then walks to his boss to get paid for his job. The supervisor follows him somewhere unusually, and they end up in an abandoned warehouse. Because a rope is dangling, he recognizes that his boss's conduct is unusual this time. His boss is presumably cognizant of Rupazov's ruse. He is conscious that the two friends he was meant to kill are still living. His boss is disappointed and enraged that he violated his confidence. He puts Rupazov's collar around the reins before pushing his scooter. He desperately attempts to cut the rope around his neck while pressing with his legs on the ground to stop himself from suffocating. He then makes an attempt to get to his scooter, which is nearby. But every attempt is in vain. Fortunately, the rope eventually loosened a short while later. He quickly cuts the cord from himself after surviving. As soon as he gets back home, he collects his fellow soldiers to plan retaliation against the commander who has gone too far. After a few days, Zalika and Barba join Rupazov at Zita's nuptials. He presents a classy appearance with his white suit and neatly knotted hair. Rupazov also takes the time to show off his music abilities, which are highly commended by everyone present, including Zita, who actually starts crying. Zita's spouse is envious after he embraces her. After the celebration, Rupazev is attacked by Zita's husband and his companions for what he did to his wife. Zalika comes to assist Rupazev. He threatens Zita's spouse with a pistol before removing Rupazev from the scene. Rupazev plots his vengeance against his criminal boss over the next 3 days. He and Zalika pay a call to his boss's hideout, arriving freely while Barba lurks outside. Rupazev states that he wishes to recover wages for the previous assignment that were not given by the boss. His employer, however, declines to pay him and threatens to unleash his dogs to attack them. Then, as Rupazev pulls out his weapon, he hits the criminal boss's table next to it with a fire extinguisher. The result is that the canines start to flee in fear. The supervisor fires them rapidly until the pistol hits the ground. Then he repeatedly stabs Rupazev with a dagger. While grabbing a gun, Zalika chooses not to aid his friend and lets the master murder him. After Rupazev passes away, Zalika takes out the leader. He removes all the cash from the secure with the intention of using it to cover the cost of his limb surgery. The wheelchair killer's tale comes to a conclusion here. It transpires that the entire Rupazev segment is a made-up story from Zalika's cartoon strip. He created a fictitious character called Rupazev who has a disability and resembles his father. Zalika has never had a relationship with his father. He only retains a photograph of his father, who resembles Rupazev precisely, which served as the inspiration for him to write a comic book about him and his father. Surprisingly, many individuals thought the comic novel, which was extremely popular among producers. Zalika presents a duplicate of Rupazev's picture book to her father as a keepsake. The movie ends here. Please like and subscribe my channel.